Phil Lindeman, Crystal Media News Director in the studio today doing our school board interviews. And today I'm joined by Chris Guarino. Chris, thanks for making time to come in.
Thank you very much for having me, Phil. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Chris, good to have you in here. And we were just talking, you're not too unfamiliar with the microphone. You had a radio show back in the day, right?
Yeah, it's several decades back. But yeah, freshman year in college, a friend of mine and I hosted a radio show. So it's good to be back in front of the microphone.
Before we get into school board, I wanted to talk a little bit about your background. So Obviously you had a radio show at one point. But tell me about the rest of your background. You know, where are you from? How'd you end up in Summit County? How long you been there? All that good stuff.
That's great. Yeah, thank you for asking. And I'll make no representations. I was an experienced radio host. That was a flash in time. But I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York City. Came out here. It was actually after 9/11. I thought I'd come out here and teach ski school for a winter. And I was really honored to be a snowboard instructor. I did private and group lessons out of the village over in Breckenridge Ski and Ride School. Some great times there, of course. The winter ended, and like so many of us, came for the winter, stayed for the summer. Worked with a local excavation company, really well-known family-owned business out of Breckenridge. I was doing that in the summers, ski school in the winters, and I was thrilled to meet my wife in 2003, Main Street, Breckenridge, and we got married 2 years later, also in Breckenridge. I've been a construction project manager, owner's representative since early 2006, late 2005 actually, and I've been working with school districts all across the state, including the Summit School District, for as many years since then. The highlight probably being I'm the former chair of the Green Schools Initiative for the state of Colorado, actually the Colorado chapter of the U.S. Green Building Council, which is a national organization. So very well versed in school district physical plants and the inner workings of rather large budgets and managing budgets with competing interests, and building consensus around difficult situations.
And that is definitely one thing that's come up as I've been talking school board with folks is fiscal responsibility, all that other good stuff. And we will jump right into it then. What made you want to run for school board? So you got the background with project management, construction, some of those other things. Why school board?
Yeah, so, I care so much about this district. And my wife and I, we have a 7-year-old son. He's a second grader at our local elementary school. And even before we ever even thought we would have a child, I always said to my wife, I just know I'm going to be on this school district someday, school board someday. These are my buildings. They're all my kids. I love that I have had the opportunity from a physical plant standpoint to impact every single child that has come through these buildings in the last 15 years. I've done a project on every single facility we own, even including central administration and the bus barn. So I take a lot of pride in this school district, and I take a lot of pride in this community. It truly changed my life, and I enjoy doing what I can to give back. So I'd always known I was going to pursue a position on the school board, and now that I'm a parent, of course, it means, it's very personal to me. It means more than it ever could have. And ultimately, the decision was made because, it's a difficult time right now for our school board. It's a bit of a controversial time in some perspectives to join the school board. And frankly, that's why it's the right time for me. I do believe I'm a consensus builder, and I've been in a lot of difficult situations, as I mentioned earlier, not just with budgets, but just with community competing interests. I've worked in, the most rural communities we have here in the state of Colorado, and there's often competing interests around project planning, fiscal management, project budgeting, so on and so forth, and it's my specialty. And I'm not an educator, unless you want to learn how to snowboard. I'm not an educator, so I don't bring that to the table. But I think my focus on active listening, building and maintaining trust, and being that consensus builder is really what I want to bring to the table. I don't plan to be a single solution to all the issues. I just want to be a really good team member with the rest of the school board directors.
And as I've been talking to other board members, and as I've been doing my own research into school boards and how they operate, I found that yes, it is important to have people with education background on a board, but it's not necessarily the most important thing in the world, because the board is, they give the blueprint to the superintendent, who then spreads it out to the principals, who then spreads it to the teachers. Those are your education pros. The board is a little bit more, like you said, maybe has to be a little bit more involved with managing the whole thing, project management, giving guidance, setting the blueprint for a district.
That's it. It's the board's responsibility to set policy and surround themselves with really good people, hire really good people to implement how that gets done. It's not a board member's position to micromanage the day-to-day of what happens within our classrooms. I think it's really important that, we step back and check ourselves and make sure we're working together in the best interests of our children and our community, and then work closely with the superintendent and teachers, not quite against them, but with them to really implement, effective solutions and help them do what they do best.
You mentioned that it's the board's responsibility to surround themselves with a good team. Do you feel that the board as it is right now, and maybe even the board over the past few years since you've been a parent, has surrounded themselves with a good team, or is that something that could change?
Yeah, I know this is one of the more controversial sides, and I've heard a few references, in print and in conversations about the multiple superintendents in a short time period. But again, I think we have to step back and realize our previous superintendent had been with the district for a very long time. Carrie Bueller was superintendent, I think, 5 or 6 years. Prior to that, she was the principal of Upper Blue Elementary for very many years. So there was real consistency there. And then, in a very non-controversial move, she retired. And of course, we welcome that for anyone at the appropriate time. And then, yes, we did have a 1-year stint with a superintendent that, the district decided to change gears rather quickly. And I know that's where some of the controversial and heightened awareness has been stirred up. I think that could have gone better, of course. I think, not in the business of blaming COVID for much. We are responsible for what we do, but talk about a difficult year to try to establish and prove yourself. It was a very complicated year, and Dr. Smith, I think, had wonderful intentions. I don't know if he got the full breathing room to do everything that he had hoped to do, but for one reason or another, and it's not our inside information as non-board members to be aware of all the inner workings of that decision. But they did decide to part ways with Dr. Smith, and now we've got a fantastic gentleman, Roy Crawford, as our interim superintendent, and not sure exactly, I don't know if he's specifically here just for a year or if that might possibly extend. We'll see what that looks like. But I think he's a great man. He's a great person for the position right now. He's got a wonderful temperament and outlook on how things should unfold. And I believe, we just need to get in there and support him. And then ultimately, whoever it winds up being, really work together again as a school board to find the right candidate for a long-term solution for our community.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because, yes, the controversy over superintendents, 3 in 3 years led to some volatility and some questioning about what the district was doing and why they were doing it and why they were making certain decisions the ways that they did. If elected, what would be your top priorities as a school board member?
Sure. First and foremost, and I've gone as far as to put this on some of my literature, but be an active listener. So often the problems with so many aspects of our society today are people listen only while they're planning their response, and we're not really appreciating each other. We're not respectfully disagreeing. I believe if we truly actively listen to each other and we truly actively communicate with each other, there's a lot of consensus we could build upon. So really my main priority and focus will be to build trust via active listening and communication. Also, I want to be a vehicle for our community. I want to have an open door policy communicating in and receiving, or communicating outward, and receiving communication inward, and doing what I can to hear my community and then help make sure the policies we're establishing represents our community's best interests.
Community, obviously a big part of this, that it's important for a board to set direction for the district, but they got to listen to teachers, they got to listen to students, they also got to listen to the community. As you see it, do you think Summit School District has an issue with academics right now? Are academics a problem?
Sure. Well, it's undeniable. We know the standardized test scores have been a bit of an issue right now, and it's not just unique to our district. It's really reflective of what's going on around the state. Because I'm not an educator, I won't stand here today and pound the desk and say I know exactly what's going on with our education system. Obviously, there's work to be done, but I think it needs to be done cohesively with all of us. I strongly agree that we have to listen to and work with our teachers, and that's why I was proud. I don't believe all candidates met with our Summit County Education Association, but I was proud to be one of the few that was willing to sit and listen to them and be interviewed by them and have a really productive conversation. And I'm very proud to have the endorsement of that teachers union now going forward. So yeah, teachers have to be a part of the solution. We need to take a hard look at our strategic plan and how we can continue to implement that. And we have to remind ourselves that strategic plan was developed by the school board, teachers, students, and community members collectively. And we need to keep all of those people at the table and continue to and really develop solutions. Also, as we're addressing, academic standards and so forth, I feel strongly that our teachers and our students are so much more than just a standardized test score. When I was a kid, I wasn't great with standardized tests, but I believe I was much more of an academic and student, far beyond just those test scores. I think we need to look at the whole child, and I know a few folks have touched on this, but social, emotional wellness, preparedness for life and career. Not every student is going to be a brain surgeon or a tech entrepreneur. I believe we need to put a lot of value in our career and technical education, just as much as any other curriculum, and do what we can to develop equitable systems so that every single student in our school district has a platform to become the best student and ultimately community member that they can be.
Yeah, talk about equitable systems. What does that look like? Because I know equity, that's another one of those hot button topics right now. Some people say that it needs to be part of the district. Other people say, no, it's distracting us from the work that actually needs to be done. What do equitable systems look like?
Yeah, I think it's a shame, and it's frankly infuriating, but I'll stay calm here. But it's a shame that the word equity is being weaponized. I think it's misperceptions and miscommunications around the word that are riling some folks up and creating animosity where there doesn't need to be any. Equity is not, there's a MAME out there if you get into the MAME game at all, but equity is not like pie. If you give someone a piece, that doesn't mean there's less for you. Equity is for all, and it's not just a racial issue, which I believe some try to make it. It is to help every single student and community member. As I said, it involves special needs students. It involves high and low performing students. It involves English language learners, socioeconomic differentials. I think all of that comes into play when we talk about equitable systems. And it doesn't mean take away from any one student. It's give everyone the platform they need to do the best they can.
Yeah, and as I was looking through some of the recent documents from the district, like especially the community survey that helped them guide the superintendent search, there was that comment that Summit County is a community of haves and have-nots. Yeah. And it is amplified definitely in the district. And you see equitable systems touching on all sides of equity as a way to maybe, maybe remedy the have-not that we have right here in the community.
Sure. At least be a small piece of the solution, right? I mean, it's going to take a lot more than, equitable systems within a school district to close that gap. But, we get the kids, the school district gets our kids for more hours per week than we often get to spend with them as parents. We get them at the very early stages of development. And it's important we do everything we can to start to build and construct, fair-minded, productive citizens as early as we can, and then try to maintain that as they develop into adults and ultimately community members. So yeah, I think it's a part of the solution, but I think Summit County and a lot of our resort communities have a long way to go to close that gap.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think leadership definitely goes a long way too, because I used to live in Avon, and I think of Avon Elementary School. It was a school that for a long time, you familiar with it at all?
Loosely, I know the physical building, of course.
Yeah, well, Avon Elementary, for a very long time, it was a school that parents did not want to send their kids to because it had a heavy Hispanic population. That was kind of the consensus around everyone. Nobody said it, but that was it.
Sure.
Well, they got a principal that came in, and she said, we will make this the best dual language school in the state.
Yeah.
Not just close the achievement gap, but make this the best one in the state. And within a few years, she was able to do that. They had not only closed the achievement gap, they were suddenly a blue ribbon school for just achievement in general. Yeah. And I would say that it came down to a lot of the fact that she as a principal said, no, we can make this happen. It doesn't matter what our population is. We, as teachers, as principals, as leaders, can make this happen. What do you see the role of teachers in the district? Because there's also been lots of talk about teacher retention.
Yes.
How do we keep those good teachers around? How do we attract the Avon Elementary quality teachers?
Yeah, sure. Teachers are our everyday heroes. That's one of my themes. And first and foremost, I think we need to do everything we can to continue to empower them and our building administrators. We have some fantastic principals in this school district, and we need to continue to work with them to help them have what they need to deliver what they see fit in their buildings. But with regards to teacher retention, again, that's another one of my themes, recruiting and retaining excellent teachers. We do talk about salaries, including myself. Unfortunately, as a state, I think we rank 39th in per pupil funding and something like 49th in per teacher funding. And that's a state issue, not a Summit School District issue. So, salaries matter. And I think it's important to focus on those and to do everything we can to continue to and further develop having as competitive salaries as possible. But I also think it's undeniable. We need to work with our community partnerships. And that's part of this, one of the pillars of the strategic plan is family and community partnerships to work with our physical plant. We have some land, we have some buildings, and we have some really strong partnerships out there. I don't think the school district needs to become a housing developer, but I think we need to work with the county, with the local towns to see how we can partner in some of those affordable housing solutions. It's very difficult to live here. I mean, until I met my wife and we were fortunate enough to move into our own place, I had 4 roommates. It was 5 of us in a 2-bedroom house, and like so many of us, you do what you can. I had 4 jobs my first winter here, and ski school being one of them. You do what you can to survive here, but ultimately it's unsustainable. If you want to grow a family, you have 1 child, you have 2 children, you need more bedrooms, you need more square feet, and our housing market's so unaffordable that unfortunately we do have that turnover. So I think we need to help provide housing solutions. I think we need to look at what else can we do, and we shouldn't decide this in a bubble. We need to work with our teachers to hear them and understand what else we can do to make it more appealing, to make it more embracing, and to make it more comfortable for them to live and stay here for longer periods of time.
Great. And I'll be talking with some teachers actually later today to get their thoughts on exactly what can be done to help them, because I've heard the same thing. Obviously, salary helps, but that's not the it's not the magic bullet.
Yeah.
It's like we've been hearing about housing. There's also not a single magic bullet for housing, too. And I'm sure that the teachers will tell me that housing would be a great step forward, but even that might not be the whole thing either. Yeah. Could even be solutions like childcare. Or all sorts of stuff like that. Great. And then finally, I've been talking to everybody about, politics and school board politics. And it's weird that school board has suddenly become this politicized place. Yeah. And some members have told me it's because it feels like teachers and the district has become a politicized place. Where do you stand on that? How do you, first of all, do politics belong in the school boardroom? And second, how do you maybe bring politics out of the classroom.
Thank you for that. If I can, just very briefly, I want to step back and address your note there regarding childcare. Critical. I think it would be a fantastic way to help support our teachers. I mean, what a challenge we have. My wife is actually the early childhood registrar for the Summit School District. She's there in central admin, living it every day, working with placing families in our programs and so forth. And we just don't have enough seats for kids. It's very difficult. I do really love and value one aspect of the 1A that passed a few years ago with helping parents and families financially with preschool costs. I think that's a wonderful thing we've done as a community. Coming back to your question, no, politics certainly don't belong in the boardroom. We need to be an apolitical group. I'm sure every director will have their own leanings, but we need to set those aside and recognize that we're not in that boardroom to represent a party by any means. We're here to represent the community, which involves all kinds of political affiliations. And then, when it comes to in the classroom, I think it'd be foolish for us to stick our heads in the sand and pretend politics don't exist in the world, right? And when we graduate students, we need them to be aware of these conversations, and we need them to, form their own opinions, of course. But I do believe they need to be informed about what's going on in society, and we need to start engaging them in some of those realities of what's going on outside our school buildings. So, at a high sense, I think our kids need to be educated and informed about politics, but not without any specific agendas or hard-leaning opinions that are, forcing one individual teacher's beliefs on kids. I will also say, and I don't think this is just a Summit School District issue, but I feel like there's a national movement to kind of manipulate that conversation and put teachers in a negative light, saying they're, pounding their own beliefs into our kids. And I don't know if that's entirely accurate. I'm sure some of it's going on out there, and we need to really examine it and take a close look and get it out of the classrooms if that is in fact what's happening. But I also wonder if some of that's being used to drum up maybe a little bit of fear and ultimately maybe some support against the teachers, which I strongly stand against.
Yeah, like you said, maybe taking one or two examples of, like a lot of things in this world, taking one or two examples of something that we don't want and saying that that's how everything is.
Yeah. We should not generalize anything, no matter what it is. Both sides of the coin, whatever it is, you should never, lump an entire group together into some ism because it's just not productive.
And finally, since you do have a child in the school district, I wanted to find out, one of the big things has been, well, he's not old enough for taking standardized tests quite yet. What have you been seeing with your kid? Do you feel like he's getting a good education? Do you feel like he's getting set up for success? Obviously, his first year at school was weird. Yeah. But what's happening with your child?
I love our school district, and I am a very proud Frisco Elementary parent. That's why it's tough to step back and hear, negative things about what's going on, because when you think about the day-to-day of what's going on in the classroom. We have loved our teachers, and actually, luckily his first year was kindergarten, so the first half of the year in the building until March 20th or 13th, of 2020, he had a fantastic time in the classroom with a wonderful kindergarten teacher, and then moved into first grade, and now second grade, of course. But I love our teachers. I love the family environment within our buildings. As a consultant walking through every one of our buildings, I see good things. I see teachers that care. I see administrators that care. And that's why it's a bit of a head scratcher when you look at things like the standardized tests. And that's why I want to work with the teachers to figure out how we can better improve our approach to those things. I don't think it's as simple as, frankly, getting back to the basics. I think it's the whole picture. You really have to look at the whole child and make sure they're prepared for the future, not the past.
And Chris, any final thoughts or words that you want to leave people with?
No, I can't thank you enough for doing this. It's an off-year election, and it's a school board election. It's not the sexiest draw for voters to get them out to fill out the ballots, but I just would implore our community members and anyone that hears this to please do a little bit of research, learn about every single one of the board members, ask the difficult questions, go to the websites, and ultimately get the ballot in the mail. They dropped today. I just picked mine up at my post office box. Ballots are there. Please fill them out. Please return them before November 2nd and do your civic duties. So thank you very much.
Great. Well, Chris, thanks again for making time to come in here and talk a little bit. And we'll be looking forward to meeting all the candidates coming up at Summit Daly's got a forum on the 18th, I believe.
Indeed. Summit High School Auditorium,
Great. Monday,
October 18th. I think it's 5:30 to 7:30 p.m.
Perfect. Well, we look forward to it, Chris. Appreciate you making time.
Thank you so much for having me, Phil. I appreciate it.
Good to have you in here on Crystal 93.